Welcome. We're so glad that you're here with us again today. You are listening to Operation Power.
Power.
We're on Black Power Media, and we are so pleased to be a part of the offering that's here today. And we say our program is Operation Power. Operation Power, a voice for Black radical politics and revolutionary change. We're so glad you're here. We're here on Thursdays from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Inez Barron, and I am joined by my co-host, my husband, the bold, the outspoken, the indomitable, the one and only unbought and unbossed
Charles Barron. And it's always an honor, a humbling honor and pleasure to be on the same broadcast, the same show with my wife of 42 years. The brilliant, beautiful,
thank you,
awesome, bold Inez Barron.
Thank you so much. We're pleased to be here, and our technician, our person behind the scenes is here with us, Kiru Jakuru, and he does a fantastic job. We wouldn't be doing all that we're here were it not for Kiru being behind the scenes, so we thank him for that as well. Well, here we are, Operation Power, another program that we'll be bringing to you, talking about how to stop gentrification, colonial capitalism's displacement and housing policy. We're talking about that. We've got some interesting data we want to share with you. But first, we want to begin our program with a libation. We believe in our tradition that we call on the ancestors, that we give recognition and homage to those who have gone before, the generations before, the ancestors who paved the way and who are there cheering us on as we begin to go forward to continue to do the work. So we do have a libation video that we want to share with you to call
Nothing important happens without a libation. And so for this very important presentation, we begin by the pouring of libation. We pour libation first to our first ancestor, to that hidden one who, though hidden, manifests in all things as all things, that God-goddess idea in the universe by any and all names. To our first ancestor, we pour libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libation too to our ancestors because they were the first people on this planet, mothers and fathers of all mankind, flashpoint of the human family. To those ancestors, we pour libation. Ashe.
Ashe.
Pour libation too to our ancestors because they were the ones who first gave birth to the idea of civilization, knew we would need a form of governance, and they nurtured that idea along the Nile until it reached its zenith in Kemet. There they built these gigantic monuments as evidence of that great civilization, and they carved instructions on the walls of temples and tombs for us, so we would never forget. To those ancestors, we pour libation. Ashe. Pour libation too to our ancestors because over time they put together all the tenets of civilization and they took those ideas and left the continent. They were the people of the first Exodus. They left Africa and went all over the world and peopled the world. To those ancestors, we pour libation. Ashe. We pour libation too to our ancestors because they did not sit on their laurels. They continued to improve, continued to evolve, and at each point of evolution, they again would leave the continent and settle and resettle the planet. They met themselves coming and going. To those ancestors, we pour libation. Ashe. We pour libation too to those ancestors because over time, they found themselves the object of a forced exodus. When they were kidnapped, shackled, cargoed, shipped out of Africa and enslaved in diasporas around the world. To those ancestors, we pour libation. Ashe. Pour libation too to the ancestors left at home, the very young, the aged, the infirm, left to reinvent themselves, depleted of us, human resources. But they were enjoined by us in the diasporas, both objects of a global myopia that ruptured the soul of a people as it ravaged a continent. To those ancestors, we pour libation. Ashe. Pour libation to those ancestors because over time they began to remember who and what they were. Because no matter where they had been dropped off, they still retained bits and pieces of who and what they were. They retained that African core that described them. They began to remember bits and pieces of a song, They began to remember lines from a rhythm. They began to remember dances that they did in ancient times. They began to remember those ancient drum beats that they now beat out on bare skin.
Asheo. Thank you so much. Always important that we realize that we're not here based on what we ourselves have done, but those who have gone before, who've paved the way, who've made sacrifices, who've come together and found ways to be creative and sustain themselves are the reason that we're here continuing on in this fight. So we always want to give homage to those who've gone before. Those that we know and those that we don't know. We appreciate all that they've done. Well, here we are again, Operation Power. And we want to just remind you of who we are. If you don't know, we are a grassroots organization. We believe on local issues, local politics, organizing on a local level. We say all politics is local, begins from that local hub, that kernel, that seed. And we do have another video that we want to share with you, specifically telling you about Operation Power. Power stands for people organizing and working for empowerment and respect.
Operation Power stands for people organizing and working for empowerment and respect.
Operation Power is a grassroots social justice organization founded by local community stakeholders, which includes activists, organizers, and leaders who understand that the system as it is currently structured is destroying us and our communities.
The system, the capitalist system, one that promotes human greed over human need, one that promotes profit over people, needs to be dismantled. These local community organizers recognize capitalism needs to be destroyed and replaced with socialism.
Operation Power was founded in 1997 with the understanding that uprooting capitalism needs to begin locally. Operation Power understood that our communities are the perfect vehicle to dismantle this parasitic capitalist system brick by brick, and the economic, political, and cultural institutions and other systems in place in our local community infrastructure. Whether it's the local school board, community board, city council, state assembly, all represents mechanisms to control the destiny of our people.
In 1997, Operation Power launched the campaign Charles Barron for City Council that would lead to over 20 years of radical changes in the East New York community. These changes included over 20,000 units of housing affordable to our community, 3 $88 million schools, over $110 million secured and allocated for community parks, millions secured for library upgrades, and another $42 million for the construction of a new library.
Cultural programs such as the Juneteenth celebration, Kwanzaa programs, and reinterment of Sankofa Park, securing thousands of jobs for local residents.
We've secured political seats that include city council seat, state assembly seat, state committee person, male and female district leader, chair of the local community board members, campaigning and getting a judge from the community elected, county committee seats, block association presidents, tenant presidents, and much more.
And all this was done while being Black radicals. We are Black radicals, which means getting to the root causes of the problems challenging our community. We need to get to the root and not lose ourselves battling the symptoms of this vicious capitalist system, because we know that revolution is the solution.
Operation Power believes in Black power for Black people. Black power is still needed and still relevant. Operation Power believes that Black radicalism is the only position we can afford to take, getting to the root of our problem for revolutionary change. Operation Power believes in community control for Black people as the only way to get to self-determination and liberation.
Operation Power believes that we need to move to a more socialist system, a communal system that doesn't suffocate but liberates. With these beliefs, we take collective action for our self-determination and liberation by being a part of Operation Power.
Thank you. Thank you, Kiru. Again, we want to invite you to look at the books that were a part of that presentation. There were 3 books that were highlighted there, and we invite you to go to Barnes & Noble's online, and you can order Speaking Truth to Power by Charles Barron, which is a compilation of articles and essays on revolution. You can also order It's Not You, It's Capitalism, Why It's Time to Break Up and How to Move On by Malika Jabali. This is an excellent primer and examination of the capitalist system and its impact. And then we do have also a novel by Kevin Barron entitled Black Rising. It's really a page turner. Once you start it, you won't put it down, and it is a part of a trilogy. So we invite you to go online. The second one is Black Rising, Homeland Abroad, also a novel by Kevin Barron. And the third one in the series is Black Threat. And we invite you to order all of those at Barnes & Noble's online. The Threat, Kevin Barron. So those are the 3 books that there are 5 books and that we're inviting you to purchase. And we assure you that you're going to be pleased and glad that you did. Once again, we're Operation Power, and we bring what we consider to be a Black radical revolutionary perspective based on our experience in the political arena. We both have served in the New York City Council and in the New York State Assembly as council members and as members of the Assembly. And it's our perspective based on our time serving and working in the community, being involved in the social justice, the Black Power movement. Charles was a member of the original Black Panthers, and we've just been on the scene and on the ground. And our community saw fit to elect us to go and represent them. Our communities are the East New York section of Brooklyn and parts of Canarsie and parts of Brownsville. So we are so pleased to be able to bring you this program today, How to Stop Gentrification, Colonial Capitalism's Exploitative Housing Policy. And with that, we're going to begin.
Well, I've been excited about this program tonight. It's critical, but let us deal with some definitions. You know, we always say colonial capitalism, and we say the Black community is a domestic colony of this colonial capitalist system. And over the centuries, over the years, we have defined ourselves as fighting against colonialism. Most people, when they think of colonialism, they think of the African continent where Europe colonized. Sovereign states were taken over by foreign countries from Europe, and they pillaged Africa, raped Africa, and enslaved our people to benefit themselves so that they build a capitalist system, feudalism, capitalism, you name it. They did it for their own personal profit. Well, there was a kind of domestic colonialism going on in this country. See, if you say colonial capitalism, some people say racial capitalism. We think colonial capitalism with Amalia Yeshitela's understanding of African internationalism best explains it. In this colonial capitalism, there are many kinds of policies that exploit our communities. Gentrification is the policy across the country that's displacing us from our homes, putting us out of our own neighborhoods, driving us out. And guess who they're using? Black politicians to do it. You know, we say Black faces in high places doesn't mean Black power or Black self-determination, because too many of them are puppets of a neo-colonial puppet's new way to colonize us is put a black face on white policies and continue the same exploitation. So when we say colonial capitalism, we're talking about the idea that our black communities, even Dr. King said it, Kwame Ture said it, that our black communities are domestic colonies. Why? We don't control the means of production. We don't control the land. We definitely don't control the police. We don't control the education system, the healthcare delivery system. Someone else does. That's what makes you a colony. So our battle for self-determination, self-governance is a part of the revolutionary process to be able to govern yourself. The Black Panther Party's first edict was, we want freedom. We want the freedom and power to determine the destiny of our beloved Black communities, and we want control of all the institutions that are in our communities. So that brings us to gentrification. How do we stop it? First, what is it? It's a housing policy of the colonial capitalist system. And in New York City and in cities and states across the country, gentrification is running rampant. And guess what? It's running rampant where Black faces are in high places of political seats. So if you look at Washington, D.C., we used to call it Chocolate City, 80%, 90% Black. Now it's Marshmallow City. So many whites have come in, they call it Marshmallow City. It's down to 45, 50, 52% Black. Under the leadership of a Black mayor and a Black city council. How about Atlanta, Georgia? Atlanta, the Black Mecca. Atlanta used to be 80, 90% Black. Now, with a Black mayor, with a Black city council, Atlanta is 46 to 52% Black. And what happens, there's a corresponding change in the political representation when you allow your community to be gentrified. That means, for instance, in Atlanta, there were 15 council members, and 13 of them used to be Black and 2 Latino. Now it's 7 Blacks, 7 whites, and 1 or 2 others. So, you know, when we look at that, you can't blame white folk because Black politicians are doing it. So we wanted to spend this program on showing you how we stopped gentrification. We stopped it in its tracks. And my beloved Black community of East New York, Brooklyn, and New York City, when we came into office 21 years ago, it was 67% Black and 22% Latina. That's about almost 90%. 21 years later, as we leave the city council and the state assembly, it is still 90% Black and Latina. How did we do that? How did we stop gentrification? You see, you have to look at who has the power. The first thing that you want to do to stop gentrification is determine who has the power to gentrify your neighborhood. When we saw that it was the New York City Council, by the way, New York City Council has 51 members, 14 Blacks, 11 Latinos, and 3 or 4 Asians. 62% or 60% of the city council is Black, Latino, and Asian. Whites are minorities. Even in the population of New York City, 8.6 million people, 62% of New York City is Black, Latino, and Asian. Whites are minorities. So in the city council, we realized we did a power analysis. You should do that in your neighborhood. Any issue that you're struggling around, do a power analysis. Who has the power to determine the outcome of that issue you're struggling over? Well, the city council passes the budget in New York City and in many other cities around the country, not the mayor. The mayor presents it So the council has that power. The city council has the power over land use. It is the city council that determines what's going to be built on city-owned land. And even if it's privately owned, and they want to go beyond their as of right as developers, they have to come to the city council. And in the city council, in addition to passing all the laws, the mayor can't even pass a law. The mayor has to get a city council member to sponsor a bill that he wants to become a law, or she wants to become a law. And then we have oversight over city agencies. So that's the power analysis we did. When we realized that, we said we can stop gentrification by winning a city council seat. Next program we're going to do down the road is how to beat the machine. We beat the most powerful machine, Democratic Party machine in the country. Brooklyn's, New York's Kings County Democratic organization is the most powerful one in the country. Inez and I and Operation Power, we are power candidates.
That's
Operation
right.
Power, we beat them for 21 years. They just got their seats back, and we're going to come back and get them again with some young people we've been training and we've been mentoring. So once we got the seat of power, then there's a thing called council member deference. The city council's land use committee, which where all of the projects has to go to the land use committee or the zoning committee. And so if you want to go up 14 stories and you're only zoned for 6, you have to come by the city council. And the council committee will call up the local council member and they'll say, Inez Barron, there's a project, LU 469, coming in your district. Do you want it? If Inez says no, that project is dead. It could be a billionaire developer, doesn't matter. The council member has the power to make or break that project. And so that's the power we wanted to attain, and we did. Remember, there's a difference between power and influence. When you have the power, the authority, the ability to actually make a decision in your best interest, regardless of the resistance, regardless of the amount of billions of dollars the developer has, you have the power to say, no, that project is gone. We didn't have to do a press conference. We didn't have to do a rally, a demonstration. We said no until the project met the needs, the income needs of the people in our beloved communities. That's how you stop gentrification. That's one way. The other way is community land trust. Support community land trust, just like they give these rich developers the land in our communities for $1. We should have a collective socialist kind of community land trust where the community owns the land, and then that land trust will determine what would the housing policies be for those developers that want to build on community-owned land. Well, we have a community land trust, but we stopped it by getting power in the New York City Council. Give you some classic examples. You think Hakeem Jeffries is so powerful. He's a superstar. He's the head of the Democratic Party. Well, guess what? In his local 57th Assembly District, where he was the assembly member. And how about the powerful Letitia James, State Attorney General, taking on Donald Trump? He's hitting the back. They're going back and forth. These two figures nationally look powerful. Locally, let the truth be told, in their assembly district, they allowed that community to be gentrified. When they came in office, it was 72% Black. By the time, and 9% white. By the time they left, no white politician was in. By the time they left, it was 32% Black and 38% white. That's how DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, brings in gentrifiers, and that's how they won those seats in Hakeem's district. Beat his mentee. And Tish, all of them allowed for gentrification. And I warned them at the city council meetings. I sat right next to Letitia James and others. Don't vote for these housing projects because they're going to gentrify your neighborhood. And when you do that, when you start defining affordability with 25 and 30% of a project, that means 70 and 75% of that project is market. High income requirements and high rents. You passed that project. And now you're complaining the gentrifiers are taking over our neighborhood. Well, you voted for the housing development that let them in. Hey, political chickens coming home to roost. And so Inez and I, we didn't do that. We had the greatest increase of Black population, according to the Daily News, which hates us, but they had to tell the truth. 13.2% increase in our Black population. And I must say, it was a decline in the white population. They were like 9% white in our beloved community, and they went down to now 3.5% white, and an increase in the Black population because we had strong Black radical revolutionary elected officials. So gentrification can be stopped if you have the right radical, strong, independent elected officials in the city council. Cop City in Atlanta. It's a Black city council that's allowing Cop City in. It's a Black mayor, Eric Adams, pathetic self, that wants a Cop City for New York City. But the city council has the power to say no. And so that's why when we talk about gentrification, we talk about the power of the city council. The other thing is the AMI, the area median income. Please listen to this. This is very important. You gentrify Black neighborhoods by letting someone else define affordability. We must define affordability for ourselves. We define affordability. HUD, the Housing Urban Development Department, federal HUD. HUD says affordability for New York City is 80% of New York City's metropolitan area AMI, area median income. Remember, median now means those who are making a certain amount of money 50% below and 50% above, the halfway mark, not the means. Because if you do the average, it's skewed. It won't give you a realistic picture of your income evaluation in your neighborhood. So hey, bear with me with this, please, because it's so important. Jot down stuff, however you electronically write it down, because it's going to be critical for you to learn this so that you can stop gentrification. So the AMI, when they came into our district, Inez and my district, the developer sat down and the developer said, council member, we're going to make some affordable housing in your district, and took out all these pretty pictures on how the housing is going to look when they're finished. I said, put the pictures away. What's the AMI requirement, the income requirement for my people to get into your new housing coming in? About 120 units. He said 80% of New York City's AMI is going to be what the affordability definition is. Well, I said, do you know New York City's AMI? Well, right now, New York City's area median income is $145,000 for a family of three. 80% of that is $116,000 for a family of three. 60% of that is $93,000 for a family of three. That's today. Then It was $86,000 for a family of three, because that was almost 20 years ago. And 80% of that was $64,000 for a family of three. Now, I know I threw some figures at you, but check this out. I then asked him, what is my neighborhood AMI? This is critical. He didn't know. He said, well, I don't know East New York's neighborhood AMI, my district of East New York. I said, this meeting is terminated. You come into my community sitting with an intelligent man and say something stupid like that. You're going to bring in affordability in my neighborhood, and you don't know the area median income of my neighborhood? He said, I could type it in right now. I made him wait 3 weeks. Came back 3 weeks later. I said, now what's the area median income of my neighborhood? $36,000 for a family of three. So 80% of HUD's definition is not affordable. Now, let me tell you what it's going to be. Why did I talk like that? I had the power. He even said this picture of Malcolm X that's behind you was in my office. He said, I like that picture of Malcolm, and I don't wear shirts and ties. I have my collarless suit on. I like this. I said, no, you don't. You know I have the power. So the bottom line, to make a long story short, I told him 80% of your units are going to be for those making $25,000, $35,000, and $45,000 for a family of three. I also told him we're not having 80 studio apartments. We're not having that. We're going to have 20 studio apartments because we got 2 and 3 people in the family. And because we had the power, we got it. I said the rent for a studio is not going to be $1,500. It's going to be $500 and change. A rent for a 1-bedroom is going to be $700 to $900. A rent for a 2-bedroom is going to be $900 to $1,100, and 3-bedroom $1,100 to $1,400. Nowhere in New York City can you find rents like that and income requirements. That's how you stop gentrification. So let me go beyond and move on. I wanted to get that fundamental thing in there. And now I want to show you some examples of it. And this is going to show you something. I'm going to show you a few things. But first, I was at a gentrification forum in Newark, New Jersey. Ras Baraka is the mayor there. Ron Daniels of the Institute of the Black World was sponsoring it. I was on that panel of about, as you'll see, about 10 people from all over the country, representing mayors, representing their communities and leaders, talking about how they're going to stop gentrification. I was the only one that could get up there and say, we stopped it. There's no gentrification in East New York. Cairo, could you show them the video?
What does gentrification look like in your community, nationally, or from the perspective of your organization or institution? We'll go down the line. Charles, on down the line. 3 to 4 minutes, please.
Yes, sir.
You'll come back. Trust.
I do. First, I want to say I want to take the responsibility that Dr. Daniel spoke of to create attention. And I think I'd like to play that role only because we can talk about gentrification, but there's a larger problem, and that is the problem of a racist, predatory, parasitic, blood-sucking capitalist system. And the solution is revolution. The solution is socialism. The solution is us electing Black officials that are not descriptively Black, they look like us, but authentically Black, they committed to us. Our biggest problem in our neighborhoods is Black neo-colonial puppets of the Democratic Party. That is the problem in our neighborhood in New York. So you know how we stop gentrification? How does gentrification look in East New York? In my section, it does not exist. And it doesn't exist because I got a beautiful African queen wife named Inez Barron, who's a city council member. I'm the state assembly member. So when the developers came to our community and they showed us these pretty pictures, we asked them, what is the AMI? What is the area median income requirement? Because if it's not the area median income of East New York, you are not building it in East New York. East New York is the community had the largest increase in the Black population is in East New York, 13.2%. Harlem lost 14% of its Blacks, 400% increase of whites. Bed-Stuy, 600% increase of whites, lost 16% of its Blacks. I have the distinct honor to be able to come before you and say I actually lost white population in my community. I lost them. They left. They left. I didn't ask them why. They left. So if you see 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 whites in my neighborhood, they're passing through. But that's on a serious note. We got 13,000 Black elected officials in this country. We've had mayors, we've had governors, we have city council members. We need to get radical, revolutionaries elected. We need to get people that are really committed to us, because just having a Black face in a high place doesn't mean anything. Even if you are the president, they said, don't mess with the Black president. When you don't mess with Black leaders in high places, we are in a difficult situation. We got to deal with it, because if we don't, now I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna run out of here. One of the good things about having Trump is all y'all are angry. If you would have had somebody else, you would have thought you made progress and you would have been cool. This fool is disrupting the whole world. Everybody's angry with him. So it provides more impetus for the movement. If Hillary would have been elected, y'all would have been saying, wow, we got a woman elected. You'd have thought you had some progress and you would have went to sleep. Capitalism is predatory. And if you go for what they call the compassionate capitalism, that's an oxymoron, but compassionate capitalism is you get a $15 minimum wage and some food stamps. Compassionate capitalism is you get a few jobs and a few programs for your community, but it still provides the impetus for the rich. It still exploits, but like Malcolm said, you suffer peacefully because you have the wrong people in power. I have more to say later, but stay ready for the revolution, because that's the only solution.
I just want to make sure we still on the air. Roll call. WBAI, we good? WPFW, we good? We still on? Sirius XM, we good? C-SPAN, I see a red light on C-SPAN. They good. All right. Amen. I'm mischievous. Somebody once asked me to, in an interview, you know, Mark, what do you think about the most powerful political couple in American history? And they thought I was going to talk about half of the couple he just mentioned. And I said, you mean Charles and Inez Barron?
So that was at that forum in New Jersey. And since that time, we were able to touch base with people all across the country and show them our formula, our successful formula for doing that. Stopping gentrification. We were the talk of the whole forum. And I think it was about 10 different states represented, cities represented. And to this day, we're still talking to them and they're working on how to stop it. We were the only ones on the panel to do that. So I want to show you one housing development that we did in East New York, Cairo. No, not that. We're not, none of that. None of that. Yep, that. See, you see them beautiful housing development back there? That is across the street from a park. By the way, we don't just do housing. We renovated $150 million worth of parks and new schools and new libraries because we were in power positions where billions of dollars are wielded on this. Is that it, Teach?
Yes.
Yes. And so we had a $115 billion city budget, $254 billion state budget. They give this money to other folk. We got this kind of housing done. That housing behind you, that that you're looking at, is 100% affordable. Next. Inez?
Fine, thank you. We can enlarge this, Keru. Now, when these apartments come online, we ensure that there are units that are set aside for the so-called formerly homeless so that they will be guaranteed. So there's a percentage that we insist be set aside at the outset. The apartments are available on a lottery basis. You have to send in your application, and you have to then be vetted, and your name and your number goes into a lottery system. If you look at this chart, it says available units and income requirements. On the extreme left column, you see it says 30% area median income. So whereas the city says affordability is based on 80%, we say no. We want units set aside at 30%, at 40%, at 50%, at 60%. That's way below the 80%. And the reason that we do that is because if you just say up to 80%, all of those units are going to be bumped up near the 80%.
That's right.
So we have designated units in each of the income bands, so that if you look at this apartment for the unit size for 30% of the area median income requirement, you can qualify for a 1-bedroom unit at a rental of $413. Again, the household could be 1 or 2 people, and your income can go up to $25,000 or down as low as $16,000. And if you want a 2-bedroom, again, then you're paying $502. And if it's 2, 3, and 4 people, you see that the income requirements are $19,000 up to $31,000, and you're paying $502. So you can see each of the categories there. 30%, if you look on the left-hand side again, 50% area median income. A 1-bedroom for 2 people can be as low as $753. 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, again, for people who are at that 50% area median neighborhood, that's our neighborhood income. So we're so proud of that. Moving up to the 60%, where you can see the monthly rent is only $923, 2 people in the family, and your income can be as low as $34,000 up to $50,000, and that's what you're paying. And then at the upper ends of that, 60% of the area median income, a monthly rent of only $1,281, and for incomes as low as $47,000. That's unheard of in New York City. And we're so pleased to be able to say, this is what is published. There's a lottery system. Information is there as to when the deadlines are. Get your lottery system in. Get your application in, and then you are a part of that lottery.
See, this is real. This is what Inez did when she was in. And this was a lot of units of housing. Cairo, next. Now, this here is some more housing development. You know, one of the things that we take pride in, because we had the power, when we sat with these developers, we said, we don't want to name it, Brooklyn Heights or, East New York Village. We wanted it named after an African concept. So I told the developers, and by the way, this is very important. We made sure that 30% of the developers for this large area of land had to be Black, because they always give it to white developers. Black developers in New York, they really pleased with us. And we made them the general contractor, GC, not a subcontractor. This is important stuff, because you think you're making progress when they give you some subcontractors, but the white guys are always the general contractor. So when they came back to us, we said, this is going to be Alafia Village, Alafia Village. And we made sure that the RFP, when they were sending out the proposal, let me tell you how deep this is. Most elected officials don't even have a clue on how this process happens. For this Alafia Village, when they were developing the proposal to send out to the developers, we don't have the power to pick the developers, but we do have the power to approve or disapprove of the project. They were so fearful of the barons that they said, guess what? We want you to be pleased. We will let you help us develop the RFP, the request for proposal, unheard of. And after we did that, and they said these last three are being considered, they wanted to know which one we favored. And we favored this one, which was Alafia Village. And you know, that's a word that means in Africa, that means peace and health, Alafia. Below that, Alafia Village is Innovative Urban Village. The Innovative Urban Village, that was the one below that. And all beautiful, by the way. And we make sure that it's quality stuff that they build in our housing with. This village is going to be for 2,000 units of housing. And by the way, in the urban village, Pastor A.R. Bernard of the CCC Church, Christian Cultural Center Church, he was part of the developing team, and we sat with them. Both of those are 100% affordable to the income level of the people in our community. When we say affordable to the income level of the people of our community, we're talking about the income band of East New York. There are some people that make 70, 80, 90, 100,000 in East New York. So we got to leave, and that's like 10, 15, 20% of the population. So we have to have some space for them too. But the good thing about the urban village is that we have home ownership in that too. So we made sure we had to include home ownership, not just rentals. You'll never get out of poverty just renting. You got to own some land. You got to own your home. So we have some affordable home ownership. To the left is a list of all of the housing developments we did. It's about 10, 15, 20. That is not all. That's a sample of it. And if you look at that list on the side there, you'll see Inez and I have been in for 21 years. This list is 100% affordable, and there's more to the income level of the people in our community. And there's more. We just didn't have time to put everything we did up. But those are the affordable housing. This is why our district is not gentrified. Black people live in these beautiful developments. And we still got to struggle around management and making sure they, treating us right and all of that. So the struggle never ends, but at least we're not gentrified. Next. Inez?
What you see here is a photograph of the actual signing by former Governor David Paterson, New York City governor, which maintains affordability at Starrett City Spring Creek Towers. Starrett City Spring Creek Towers is the largest federally subsidized housing unit in the United States. There are about 6,000 units of housing. It encompasses about upwards of 16,000 people living in these units. Now, Starvette City was funded partly through the state by Mitchell-Lama law restrictions, which kept the income low. After 20 years, a developer of the project can leave Mitchell-Lama, and then anything is eligible to happen. Private developers can come in, the rents can be market rate rents. And so we organize the people in the housing development, in this particular housing development. We came and we said, no, this is not going to happen. You're not going to sell them to equity company that you want to sell it to. We are protesting. And what happened is that the city, the assembly, and the state and the feds came together. That's why I'm standing there. At that time, I was the assembly member. And what we said was that they would have legislation that would maintain Starvette City affordable for the next 30 years. There would not be any market rate coming in, that the people would maintain their rents at the income levels that they were. And that was unheard of. That was unheard of that would happen. But we're pleased to say that that was successful. And here you have the evidence of us being the ones that were standing there watching the governor sign this legislation to maintain the affordability for our community for the next 30 years.
Inez was the sponsor in the state assembly of that bill, and the state senator had to sponsor the other part of it. But Inez initiated that for our community. And just know that after she left assembly and I came in and they expanded the affordability beyond the 30 years, and it went to 60 years after that. So that's almost like perpetuity. That's a word you should know. When you fight for affordability, it should be in perpetuity. That means forever. But sometimes the city or the state doesn't want to do that because they got to give the subsidies to these developers to keep it affordable. But just one other note on subsidies, that's free money. When developers come to us and say, we can't make it affordable, so because we just can't afford it, it's not making economic sense. I said, well, then go get your welfare. They said, welfare? Yeah, the free money. When we get free money from the government, we're on welfare. When you get it, you're getting subsidies. Well, either we're all on subsidies or we're all on welfare. So these rich millionaire, billionaire developers get free state and city money to build this housing. You could do the same thing. That's why we make sure we have Black developers taking advantage of this. Next.
Now we have some of the advertising that we have to let people know what it is that we have done. If you don't tell your story, people are not going to know what's happening. If you allow somebody else to tell your story, they're going to tell it the way they see it. So here you have information that we shared with our voting population to let them know what it was that we had done. And we're asking them to continue to support us with their vote. And the developments that are shown here are Dumont Green, Gateway, and Barbie Street. And we're proud to say that Dumont Green, when it was constructed, had the largest solar panel system of anywhere in New York State.
That's right.
So we have other kinds of considerations that we want to make sure we bring to our communities so that we are benefiting them, not just with the rental and the housing, but also mindful of the economy and making sure that the environment is also being protected and that we're not polluting that environment. So those are three of the projects. And the Elton Street corridor is a corridor within a larger development which allowed for mom and pop stores to be in that development, to have property, to have their businesses there so that they're not forced out by the larger stores that were there. So yes, we did have the larger development, but the Elton Street corridor provided an opportunity for mom and pop stores to be there as well. The next one, Kayla. Again, more housing. This is a Gateway Elton Street corridor, phase 2, and Livonia Avenue initiative. And these are mixed units. This is not just housing. We have the lower level where we have businesses that are there, we have community centers that are there, we have an opportunity for people to be able to function not just with the housing, but with mixed use, and that's so important, as we know, can't just be housing. It's got to be other opportunities that come with that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. This is what we wanted to share with you. You can take that off the screen, Cairo. This is what we wanted to share with you on the question of gentrification. We wanted to make sure that you understood it can, must, and will be stopped if you get the right elected officials in office. Now, we did all of that and maintained our revolutionary, radical voice and ideology. We were able to get 3 Black Liberation Army political prisoners freed because we were in the state assembly and we worked with the Jericho movement and all of those who were fighting to free political prisoners. We got the caucus, the Black, Latino, Asian, Hispanic caucus in the state assembly to send a letter of support to the parole board, to Herman Bell, he was freed, to Jalil Montekim, he was freed, to Seth Hayes, he was freed. And we maintained our radical edge. We went to Africa, we went to Cuba, we went to Venezuela to learn about socialism. We took on governors, we took on mayors. We did not compromise any of our principles or even our politics. We got the first reparations bill passed by New York State in the state assembly, the first ever, and they're working on a commission now. And we can go on to the rest of this broadcast and tell you all the benefits from it. But we see these, as the Black Panther Party did, these are survival programs and issues pending the revolution. We let our people know because we've done all of that doesn't mean that the system works. We had to convince our people that capitalism is not working, and they have to engage in a radical revolutionary movement to dismantle the parasitic colonial capitalist system and its foreign policy of imperialism. That's why we support the Sahel Revolution and the BRICS countries. All of this, as we in the belly of the beast, 48.5 million strong in the belly of the beast, we have to begin to develop the capacity to get Black, radical, revolutionary elected officials into the local communities, the local city and state assemblies. You can see what can be done, Inez.
Thank you so much. We're so pleased that you've been here with us, and we're going to continue this topic in other areas as we move on through the coming weeks. We do want you to know that we're here Thursdays at 7 p.m., and we're so glad that you're here. And we have a program, music that Kara's going to play for us.
And before we get to the music, we say every week that power is the great equalizer. Black power.
Black power.
You could play the music, Cairo. Serious business is what we're playing. Where is the justice?
If a bird can be free, flying high in the sky, if a mountain lion can be free as he climbs a mountain high, if a politician can be free after he creates a Watergate, tell me why must that brother go to jail for stealing a loaf of bread? Where is the justice? Tell me what is fair. How come so many never get their share? Where is the justice? Tell me what is fair. How come so many never get their share? corruption and make millions of the workers' sweat and blood. Tell me why can't that worker pay his bills at the end of every month? Where is the justice? Tell me what is fair. How come so many never get their share? Where is the justice? Tell me what is fair. How come so many never get their share? If the rich can get a tax break, so they live on easy street. Tell me why are people starving? Oh, starving with no food to eat. Where is the justice? Tell me what is fair. How come so many never get their share? Where is the justice? Tell me what is fair. How come so many never get their share? They always say in the USA there's human rights and equality. Well, if it's true, oh, if it's true, yeah. What about me and what about you? Where is the justice? Tell me what is fair. How come so many never get their share? Where is the justice? Tell me what is fair. How come so many never get their share? There's gotta be justice. It's gotta be fair. Because the many gotta get their share. There's gotta be justice. It's gotta be fair. Because the many gotta get their share.
All right.